You don't notice it at first. It's not loud. It's not obvious. It doesn't look like failure. It looks normal. The way someone reacts in a conversation, the way they handle small problems, the way they think or avoid thinking. And the scary part? Sometimes you might see yourself in it. Not because you're not smart, but because intelligence isn't just about IQ. It's about habits. And some habits quietly shrink the way you think every single day. Let me show you something. You're sitting with someone. You share an idea, something meaningful to you. They don't ask questions. They don't try to understand. They just dismiss it. Yeah, that's stupid. Or worse, they laugh. At that moment, it feels like arrogance. But often, it's something else. It's limitation. Because one of the clearest signs of low thinking ability isn't lack of knowledge. It's the inability to explore ideas. And that's the first habit. They reject what they don't understand. Not because it's wrong, but because thinking deeper feels uncomfortable. Now think about this. Have you ever met someone who always blames others? Nothing is ever their fault. If they fail, it's bad luck. If they hurt someone, it's you're too sensitive. If life doesn't go their way, the world is unfair. At first, it sounds like confidence, but it's not. It's avoidance. Because real intelligence requires self-reflection, and self-reflection is painful. So instead of asking, "What did I do wrong?" they ask, "Who can I blame?" That's the second habit. They never take responsibility. Pause for a second. Be honest. When something goes wrong in your life, what's your first instinct?
Let's go deeper.
Some people talk a lot, but if you listen carefully, they're not saying anything. They repeat the same shallow opinions. They copy what they've heard. They speak to sound smart, not to understand. Because thinking deeply takes effort, and they've trained their mind to avoid effort. This is the third habit. They confuse talking with thinking. And then there's this one. They hate being corrected, even gently, even respectfully. The moment someone points out a mistake, they get defensive, they shut down, or they attack. Why? Because their identity is fragile. They don't see mistakes as growth, they see them as threats. So instead of learning, they protect their ego. That's the fourth habit. They resist learning. Now imagine this. Two people face the same problem. One gets curious. They analyze it. They break it down. They try different solutions. The other? They avoid it. They scroll. They distract themselves. They say, "I'll deal with it later." But later never comes, because thinking feels heavy, and they've built a habit of escape. That's the fifth habit. They run from mental effort. Here's something subtle. Low thinking patterns often hide behind confidence. You'll see people who sound very sure of everything. They have strong opinions about everything. They speak in absolutes. This is right. That is wrong. No debate. But real intelligence is different. It questions itself. It stays open, because it understands there's always more to learn. So when someone thinks they already know everything, that's the sixth habit. They stop being curious. Pause again. When was the last time you changed your mind about something important? Let's continue. Some people struggle to listen, not because they can't hear, but because they're waiting to speak. While you're talking, they're preparing their response. They interrupt. They miss details. They misunderstand you. And then they react to something you never even said. Because listening requires focus, and focus requires discipline. That's the seventh habit. They don't truly listen. Now here's a big one. They avoid reading, learning, or exposing themselves to new ideas. Not because they don't have time, but because it feels boring. They prefer quick entertainment, short content, easy dopamine. Over time, their thinking becomes shallow, not by accident, but by repetition, because the brain adapts to what you feed it. That's the eighth habit. They choose comfort over growth. And then, they follow the crowd, blindly. If everyone believes something, they believe it too. If something is trending, it must be true. They don't question. They don't analyze. They outsource their thinking. Because thinking independently is risky. It can make you stand alone. And they're not ready for that. That's the ninth habit. They rely on others to think for them. Finally. They react emotionally to everything. Small criticism feels like an attack. Minor problems feel overwhelming. Different opinions feel personal because they haven't developed emotional control. And here's the truth most people miss. Intelligence isn't just logical, it's emotional too. If you can't manage your emotions, your thinking gets distorted. That's the 10th habit. They let emotions control their thinking. Now here's the twist. This video isn't about judging others, it's about awareness. Because these habits, everyone has some of them, at different times, in different situations. The difference between growing and staying stuck is noticing them, catching yourself, and choosing differently. So next time you feel defensive, pause. Next time you want to blame someone, pause. Next time you avoid thinking deeply, pause. Because in that small moment, you're deciding something powerful. Not your IQ, but your direction. And direction changes everything.